I got those paper clips you wanted.
Oh, thanks, Alan. Well, like I promised, here's your reward. Open your hands up, son.
That's a little version of me, Alan. I want you to have it.
I don't really want this.
These rules are subject to change, but this rough skeleton will remain so people understand what I'm allowing when it comes to members models. Firstly, I don't think there is any more. I knew there was in the beginning. There was a bit of a confusion about the models, and it's the fact that I do not send these to people. I will be traveling in this coming year, hopefully, or probably next year, honestly, the more I'm thinking about it, to places like Adepticon and maybe not Gen Con. I don't know if it was the same place that I saw, but there's a convention where like a roof was leaking all over people's stands. That was very, very not fun. But if you are in a tier where you end up getting an anniversary model made of you, I might make some exceptions about gifting them to people, but that's only if I ever really meet you in person. I'm not mailing these to people. Some of you don't live in the United States, and that's just... Also, once again, the entire point of the models being made is that they remain in my army, so I can remember everybody who's stuck around for a whole year. On screen, I'll be showing off the variations of what you're allowed to have me kit bash, depending on your tier, but you're going to need to set a little bit of ground rules first. Namely cost. I like you guys. I do. If you hang out on the Discord with me, I usually enjoy talking to most of you. Some of you are pushing my patience, but that's really not the point. The problem is that there is a budgetary limit, because despite the fact that I'm willing to go above and beyond to make kit bashes and make things cool, my wallet doesn't agree with me, and I also live in California, so things are expensive over here. Getting onto what's allowed with models, let's go ahead and talk about Chosen. For Chosen people, you get kit bashed into sergeants, squad leaders, etc. Not necessarily characters, but for those who are paying attention in list building, especially in 9th edition, sergeants had a very important role where they were allowed to carry around relics. In the lore of the Broken Tower, all squad leads are reforged, full-on members of the tower that are entrusted to keep the other severed in line and ensure their ascension. When you become a severed, you're stripped of any previous iconography and trinkets. When you become reforged, as you are once your year is up, you are allowed some independence again since you proved yourself. So what does that mean for kit bashing? If you want to say you came from a specific legion or have a certain style in mind, that's allowed as long as it's feasibly able to fit in the budget and physically able to be done. As you know, Warhammer is expensive, even with bit sellers, but I'm not opposed to the idea of 3D printing or 3D kit bashing. I've been doing that a lot more, especially as I've been getting into other games like Star Wars Legion and Trench Crusade. So the idea of it being like, do you want to be a Raptor Sergeant who came from the Night Lords and your relic is a Lightning Claw? Maybe you're a Havoc Sergeant of the Death Guard with some sort of grenade launcher weapon. Whatever your idea is, I want to hear them, and the easiest way to communicate with me is via Discord. Despite the fact that some of the members are experiencing some form of brain cancer every now and again, the reason why I ask for you to have your name be the same as on YouTube is so that way I know who to at when it's time to kit bash you. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to make an announcement at the end of my videos, and not everybody watches the end of my videos. If you don't have specific ideas in mind, that's fine. Even something as little as just a background of who the model is will give me enough to work on them. Given the amount of members, I am aiming to at least get 2 models done a month. At the very least, I would like to try to get 1 Warpsmith and 2 Chosen done, but we'll go ahead and see how that's going. And speaking of Warpsmith, we are just beyond squad leaders. We are in the realm of Chaos Lords. When it comes to a Warpsmith, what is allowed? Almost anything. Almost. This is the realm where there's a lot more freedom, but there's also still some limitations. For instance, technically the limit is anything under Abaddon, because Dio is the Abaddon proxy. That's just how it is. So no, I'm not going to end up kit bashing you into a Defiler or a Core Lord of Skulls, but I'm not opposed to some like funny, goofy shit like a Rhino or a Vindicator Tank Commander or things like that. But the general rule is actual characters you can run in game. Master of Executions, Chaos Lord, Dark Apostle, so on and so forth. But like I said, this is a part to have discussion. This is not just a part of just like, okay, what are characters in the CSM list? No, like I said, Vindicator Commander would be very funny, stuff like that. And also, I'll talk about some other ideas that have been given in a little bit. The easiest way to do this tier is to not care or have in mind what you want the model to represent, in all honesty. I saw a lot of people who were in Warpsmith were getting hung up on a lot of the details of just like rules of models. For instance, one person wants me to kit bash them into a Lord Cacophonous with a jump pack. That's cool. The only character with a jump pack is a Chaos Lord on jump pack, and their rules don't really fit a Lord Cacophonous, but who gives a shit? The character is going to be used to represent a character for any unit, so what does it matter? What matters is that it's fucking cool. Another person has expressed interest in being an obliterator with a stogie in their mouth, kind of like a 1980s Predator Carl Weather type deal. Obviously, the more you add, the more expensive this ends up getting, but once again, I'm not opposed to 3D printing. So if there's a file out there for a model or for bits that you think would work with representing a character, feel free to tell me. The biggest thing is that I don't want for you to just send me a whole model and just say 3D print this and that's my character, because there's no fun in that. The fun comes in kit bashing. The fun comes in adding things. Somebody a while ago, I don't remember who it is at this point. I don't think it was Zach. It was somebody else, I think. Actually, it might have been Zach. Somebody asked for me to 3D print them as like, have you ever seen those like Space Marine cat maid girl things? It's so fucking stupid. But while that's funny, just printing the model by itself is incredibly boring. Adding more onto it, I think, would be more fun. Oh, also, there's chaos versions of the Space Marine cat maids, I think, as well, which is even more fucking weird. But I would also like to remind people for Warpsmith tiers specifically, because I think that's where it's more valuable. The Broken Tower allies itself with anybody who's willing to follow orders. So Dark Mechanicum, Traitor Guard, Chaos Votan, so on and so forth. Anything that could be kit bashed into the ranks and anything that could serve as an interesting character. And for Warpsmith tier, you have that kind of freedom. Speaking of freedom, someone asked me this, and I've been considering it, and I've been alluding to it throughout the entirety of the script. Some people asked me if they could send me models. Some people asked me if they could send me 3D files. As of right now, I do not have a PO box. I do not want to open a PO box. PO boxes cost money. This channel does not make enough money to justify that, in my opinion. So, can you send me models? No. Can you send me bits? No. Can you send me 3D printable files? I'm considering it, and just assume the answer is yes, because this gets into like a weird, like muddy issue of technically piracy, and the last thing I want to be doing is having people send me 3D printed files when I didn't even pay for the file myself. I'm more leaning towards, if the file is still up, you can link it to me and I will buy it and download it myself to do kit bashing. Beyond that, if the file has been taken down for God knows how long, then yeah, you could probably go ahead and send me over the bits. That being said, don't send me a fucking zip file. I'm not going to open it. That's just not going to happen. I'm thinking more closely to probably just sharing it with me on Google Drive or something. I'll have to find something, because I don't use Dropbox. I'm not white. Aside from that, I don't really have much else to say on the rules. If you have questions or suggestions, please feel free to let me know. But also remember that I am just a man. Another thing is lore. And this is kind of probably the most important thing for me, especially because this is now like the next 2 pages of the script. Also, it's half the fun of making a character. I mean, most of us probably like TTRPGs for that exact reason. I don't mind people writing up lore for their characters. In fact, I encourage it. That being said, if you don't know me, I am a control freak. I love people telling me their stuff. Some of you have come up with really good ideas, and that being said, I am a control freak. The only way I can describe this without just like going into like a tyrant asshole rage, I don't know. I really don't know how else to describe it. You call that the Iron Warrior within me. Do not touch my tower or the characters. Your reason for joining the tower, your reason for joining the warband, that is your own reason. That is you entirely. The offer always remains for anyone to join, but the reason why should be dedicated to you, your character, events in their life, and so forth. So yes, please give me your lore. I want to talk about them in possible videos, most likely shorts, unless I do whole kit bashing videos for Warpsmith, which I might end up doing. We'll go ahead and see. That being said, I respect your creative vision, so please respect mine as well. I like talking about my own characters. I like talking about the lore that I set up for the Broken Tower. I like just talking about things, because creative writing is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And I really want to hear what everybody else has to say. Just don't fuck with my shit. I won't fuck with yours. It should be a mutual understanding. And there's an idea in like, I think it's like in film or like a script writing called killing your darlings, where or it's just like a creative idea in general, where sometimes you just have to give up on your own stuff. I am not willing to kill my darlings, and I would never expect you to do the same. Some people have said certain things about either my own characters or the tower, and I'm not going to name any names because I don't want anybody to feel bad. And it's not like it like sent me into a violent nerd rage, but it's just I don't want people to assume they know everything about a character or about the tower, or feel like they should have some sort of, how do I describe it, say over things like that, because I'm gonna be an asshole about this. At least I fucking made it. You did it. I want to express that same respect over to your creations, because art and writing is something that's very important to me. And also, once again, some of you guys have just had really good ideas. At the end of this now, I kind of just want to like leave a framework for people to use if it helps them to get into making a character, because I know some people haven't, like, over half of you have come up with an idea, because I think less than half of the people who are members have come and told me about their ideas. So let's just go ahead and like do this little mental exercise together, and I'll show you how I think about a character usually. Who is your character? What's their name? Where are they from? How long have they been fighting, and what made them join the Broken Tower? Do you prefer using a specific type of weapon? Is there something unconventional about their combat tactics that would make a Space Marine concerned for their own safety? Let me give a few examples of characters that I ended up creating myself. For Chosen, it's much simpler, so we'll go ahead and start with a Traitor Guard Sergeant. Originally founded on an agri-world, the Band of the Reforged initially captured him for being a suspected psyker. When it was proven that not only he had psychic potential, but carried a chaos artifact on his person and hadn't succumbed to its influence, as that's what had drawn the Reforged to him to begin with, it was determined that Grin would be taught psychic mastery till he either succeeded or died horribly. Surprisingly, Grin had survived for some time, albeit taking severe damage throughout his service to the Broken Tower. Between losing his left hand and getting his entire right arm blown off, Captain Grin was recommended for ascension after using his psychic relic to atomize a Space Marine, leaving behind only his armor, some of which he ended up using to protect his cybernetic right arm. Denying his ascension to become an Astartes in fear that it might dampen his psychic gift, Captain Grin leads a squad of hardened unbound veterans in the regiment known as the Hollow Men, a regiment of men and women so consumed by war and their desire to sow fear and death among the loyalists, all that remains is that desire. During his time in service, he has adopted a few tactics from members of the 8th Legion while serving under the Severed of Conrad Kurz. His current goal? To discover more of what his artifact does and to continue in his rise with the ranks of the Unbound. Not an intensive amount of kitbashing done for this guy, but he also is just a sergeant and not a full-blown character. That being said, even a small character is still a character. An example for Warpsmith would be a Dark Mechanicum character that I ended up using my Wrath and Glory campaign, who I really need to get finished on making him, is Triademos Zahn. What makes them special? Did you ever do the boxing quest line in Cyberpunk 2077 where you run into the twins? It's the same guy inhabiting 2 different bodies. Well, imagine if there's 3 tech priests that did that to each other, and then you get Triademos Zahn. This is a model that, like I said, I'm currently working on, but regardless, you can see the art that inspired this creation. Another funny idea that popped into my head, because it's like, remember Kids Next Door and the delightful children from down the lane, how they stuck to each other like glue when they walked around and kind of just like a herd of animals? That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting with Triademos. They're 3 separate bodies, but they act more like limbs instead of individual people. And what would I run this as? Given the limitations on model and base sizes, it'd be pretty difficult, but while I said my limit is like 40 millimeter, I'm not against hearing out ideas for what people have had. One idea of this is, given that it's 3 tech priests, is maybe Vashtor. Height would be an issue, but I solved that with my call proxy when I put my tech priest on in the band. Regardless, it's an idea for the future, but an idea nonetheless, and that's all you need to start. You don't really need to make lore and history of these characters to begin with. Just start small and then start working your way on top of that. If you're a member in Chosen or higher and you have difficulties trying to come up with ideas, or just look up art or kit bashes, those are generally amazing parts of our hobby, and I would love to see what all of your ideas are in the future. I have a list of those who are getting closer to their 1-year anniversary. We're still a few months out, but we're still in the realm of when I need to start planning and getting all these things ready. And when I do get them ready, I will let you know one by one in the Discord whose turn it is. Beyond that, I'll see y'all later.